Folks, how are you? Thank you very much for having me. I apologize. I was just over at the Midtown Cultural District meeting at the Modern Theater, and I like to, after the meeting, try to impart their wisdom on me. I said, guys, I got to run on the North End, so we're here. But either way, thank you so much for participating in one of these visioning kits. Just a quick little thing about Imagine Boston before we get started. Imagine Boston is the mayor's multi-year initiative, citywide master plan. It's the first master plan done in over 50 years, since 1965. And in 1965, it was actually done, it was sort of a stipulation to get some federal funding. So, as you and I probably both can conjure, that it was probably the city got together and just said, hey, quick, come up with a citywide master plan so that we can make sure we get this federal funding. But now, our economy's booming, things are going right. Now is actually the right time to start planning and make sure we stay ahead of the curve here in the future. But of course, we're experiencing tremendous growth, and that's a great thing for a city to do. But of course, it doesn't come without its inherent problems, right? There's a lot of people living here now. We're starting to come here. We're at right around mid 600, 650 for our population for the city of Boston. Our peak back in 1950 was 800,000. So of course I asked the question, if we were at 800,000 back in 1950, what do we have to worry about? And the difference was, right, the demographics. Those triple deckers that used to be filled with husband, wife, 15 kids, and so on, that make the population greater. Now it's not the same. So how do we house this new population? And how do we make sure that the folks that are here today have the ability to stay? Because new population coming in, there's this young tech sector, a lot of the good jobs, high-paying jobs are coming in. They now want to live in the city, and they're able to drive the price up of housing, right? And that's obviously, I think we all feel it, whether it's in our rent or our taxes or what have you. So the idea is, where do we house this growing population? What pockets of the city can we identify where we can actually put density and height, so we can make sure we take on this growing population? And then when we do that, what are the impacts of that? Say we found a place in Dorchester and said we can fit 5,000 new units here. Well, 5,000 new people now live in that area. How are they getting to and from that area? Do they have enough open space amenities for that area? Is there a school nearby? Do we now need to put a school in there? So when we think on the citywide level, it's very tough because you have to get out of your neighborhood thinking, and we all know in Boston here, right? I'm from East Boston. What do I care what happens in Hyde Park? That's sort of the mentality. But when we start to think on the benefit of a citywide level and how we continue to be a healthy city, you sort of have to take your mind out of that frame and really put it in a citywide context about where things go. How do we connect jobs to opportunities and to where people live? And how does that help the traffic flow? And how does the open space and arts help it affect the people that are living here now and where we put people later? So I think that's the idea. We're doing a lot of engagement. I won't get to that. We'll get right into this stuff. But I just want to sort of give you a little bit of a framework. It's a lot of stuff to cover, right? Every day I'm kind of like, it's like I'm going to school. I'm learning something new, a new challenge, a new way to incorporate all this stuff. So we'll very quickly start this visioning kit. And all we're trying to do here is identify, for you folks as a community group, what are your top 3 concerns, and what do you think the top 3 opportunities are for the city of Boston? Okay? So it should be, we should get down to it pretty quick, because I know I want to be respectful of time, so maybe we'll try and speed this up, but I'll go at a pace where you guys feel comfortable. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could split it into 2 groups. I think we can just do it as well. Are you guys happy with that? So first of all, we can just start with I'm sure you guys already did the welcome and introduction, so I don't need to do that, right? So I'm John Fitzgerald. It's nice to meet all of you. And now we're going to get into the quick small group discussion. So the warm-up question that we'll ask, right? We'll get the juice flowing by answering the question, how to get involved. And my life in 2030 will be better with. If you have a cell phone with you, actually, for folks that can do this, make sure, if you could text Imagine. Does anyone have their cell phone on them right now? This is an easy way to stay involved. If you text the word Imagine, yes, yeah. And you text the word that to 617 617-858-8428. So 617-858-8428. And this way, this is how you can now continue to stay involved as we go through our process and we do our feedback loop, as we start to get information and then sort of begin to guide the story about where growth is occurring in the city. That we can then, when we get to that next iteration, that next draft of, okay, maybe we're starting to form that story, but before we get too far, let's put it back out there. We can actually ask you guys just through a text, and it's a simple, you can just respond back with a letter that we give you. And it's a very easy way. When you're Netflix binging on your couch, but bang, you're doing your civic duty, right? Right there. So you don't even have to leave the house. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. So why don't we do this? We're going to do a brainstorm challenge where we've got you warmed up thinking about some of the different elements that go into a citywide plan, and I know I kind of rushed through that, I apologize, but think about open space, schools, health, public safety, housing, mobility. Well, our first big question is, what are the biggest challenges facing Boston? You have 5 minutes to brainstorm on your own and come up with 3 challenges, and write each challenge on a separate Post-it note. So I'm going to see if you guys can just pass those down. You guys. So just take 3. Everyone take 3 each. Should be enough there. Each. Let me know if you need one. No. This is just we'll be able to do an easy count at the end, and we'll get to see what they think. All of you think. And then we can look as a community. Okay, here's the one that came up the most. Is the challenges for the North End. Thank you. So take 5 minutes, just brainstorm with amongst yourselves and the people at your table, just to think about the top challenges that exist today. And so if I can, I actually made copies of this, just so people can sort of, some things, this is the thing, it says things you might not know about Boston, just get you thinking about some of the issues in the city.
Do you have an extra pen?
It's green. No, it's okay.
Huh?
Here's someone else.
Yeah, but one concern on each, so you should have 3 different Post-its in front of you with the concern on them.
I got 5.
Well, that's because I like it that much. And I know you have that much to say. You guys already see that? Folks doing?
Terrific.
One more time, we're good? I feel like, no press, take your time. We got a minute left if you need. So now that you've done it, I guess what they usually do is, if you could come up in places where folks want me to come grab them, just stick them all on the table up here. We can look at them as a whole. And what we'll do is we'll begin to sort of group them together into We'll group them into categories here. They don't have to be all together, just slap them around the table, whatever you want to do. Especially if it's pretty color pens. You get it, huh? You don't hear it? Alright. This is great. This is a good ONS test right here. What do you think the concerns of the community are?
Housing,
Should drag it.
transportation, density.
Housing, transportation, is that what those are the three you said?
No, those are three that I think.
Quick to say no there. No. So it looks like right now we have a lot under transportation, right? A lot under parking. And I think the next one that comes up is between schools and affordable housing. So everyone sort of has traffic, parking, and then schools and affordable housing are sort of the median two. Now there's some other good ones in here. The high school, the North Station subway, some people are getting very specific, that's great too. Renovation to our parks, keep families, the trash, the rats, people said. So all definitely concerns of the neighborhood, but I think we're starting to see the theme of parking, transportation, housing, and schools coming out of the north end, right? And then trash in a strong fifth, in a strong fifth. So, let's see, what do we think? What do we think about these challenges? So now we got to prioritize these. Out of these ones, out of those four that I mentioned, right? What do we think as a group? We can talk this out just for 5 minutes. What do we think that where should I list 1 through 4? We'll give you guys 4 for this one. So between housing, transportation, parking, and schools. Housing, how would you rank those 1 through 4?
I think housing, keeping families here is probably something I see that's most important. I know, I would say that's very important, keeping the community, keeping kids here. Stopping the exodus to the suburbs.
So can we, so
Parking are very simple.
does anyone think that there should be something above, let's start with that, maybe housing is an easy one. Does anyone think that the other 3 should be above housing, or is housing number 1? Sir?
I put school.
You put school first.
Public education, so like create families, get families to come in.
Yeah, so a little chicken and the egg, we gotta go with
That's what we see in our neighborhood, we went down to 2 schools, St. John's, which is a great school, been around for a long time. I went to St. John's and the Elliott, which has grown so much, and I think next year, as you can see the 3rd location, we need more. I mean, I think that there's gonna be 5 second grades out of the Elliott, and there's so many kids, in this neighborhood alone, school.
They go hand in hand too, though.
Right.
You know, so then that's why that's why you can throw the parking up there, because all this stuff goes together for this neighborhood especially.
We did the high school, these kids who go to, so they would have to go to take the exam school, or go to, those who can afford to go to private schools. We
Right.
had 2 of them in the neighborhood.
I think you're right, but so do you think that does having a high school here, is that one of the top priorities for the North End? I mean, it really gets into, you gotta make some hard decisions,
Housing,
right?
affordable housing and high school.
So
We have 2 high
yes.
schools,
I
they're
think, I
gone.
mean,
They're gone, high school's gone.
we would love to have a high school. Yeah. We're talking about keeping, I have kids in 5th grade and 4th grade, so what's gonna happen in 8th grade? I'm not sure where my kids are going to school, probably private school, which is fine, but where we're gonna put a high school,
Yeah.
So I think more people would love to see a high school. I think people are realistic to say in this neighborhood, we're gonna put it, unless the Elliott goes through high school.
But it could be a downtown high school.
Yeah.
And it could be just a walk,
Right.
walk that could
Accessible
cater
high school.
to Beacon Hill and the West End and
I would love to see the Elliott go right through 12, right?
So why don't we say this? So now this is the decision you guys have to make. There's a lot of talk about the schools right now. Everyone's getting fired up, but it wasn't even in the, what was it, the top, where we have housing, transportation, parking, and schools. So it was. So where do you, are we going housing, schools next? Or parking and transportation? Where would you, listen, they're all important. We're not saying that one is gonna not be done or anything. But how would you prioritize it? Because that's how we internally at City Hall have to think about where can we put the city budget? How do we prioritize our budget?
are really young, they're looking at schools. If you talk to people that are a little bit older, they're looking at housing, affordable housing.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, there's a wide range of
So
age.
I don't want to be accused of guiding you guys anywhere, because that's not the intent. This is the intent for you. But from what I'm hearing, just to facilitate this a little more, it seems that housing, if we had to rank them, housing number 1, schools number 2, and then parking transportation is a little bit of a, we can sort of combine them, I guess. You know, we'll say that. So parking and transportation, because I guess if you have good transportation, you don't need to bring your car, maybe parking's not an issue, right? That's something we're going for. So now that I have that, and I know that those are the 3 priorities, those are the three challenges that face the city, that face the North End specifically, right? Housing, schools, parking / transportation. What are the 3 opportunities that face the North End? Where are the things, now maybe this is where a high school comes in, to get people started thinking, what are the 3 opportunities that you think could face the North End? If you could write those down, and then we'll see. This might be where we differ a lot. We might get a lot of different opinions, but we can see what the priorities that come out of. So if folks need more, if anyone needs more stickies, you let me know. But again, think of your 3 biggest opportunities that faces the North End, I shouldn't say face the North End, that the North End could embrace. What are the 3 biggest opportunities? Again, I'm just trying to get where we're near, you know what's funny? None of you said that what challenges is sea level rise. Nobody said sea level rise for a challenge, for a neighborhood that's right on the water.
Yes.
Is that anyone up there?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, not as a priority, you know what I mean?
The lady brought the maps that we.
Yeah.
Oh, was she here? Did she speak before? Was she here tonight?
Yeah.
Who was here?
She's gone.
Lauren,
Lauren,
Oh, okay, so someone from the city. Oh, okay, yeah. Because part of my job, I've sat with like doing the citywide stuff. Of course, you have all the advocacy groups sort of advocate. They don't even know what a citywide plan is. They just know you gotta have my advocacy part in there.
Hey, where I live, I'll be waterfront, there's sea rise, so I'm good.
Yeah. But I've got the
Opportunity, that's right.
PowerPoint as well. But it's kind of scary to think about 2050. You know, if Hurricane Sandy hit one of the facts, if Hurricane Sandy hit with a 2.5-foot surge, right, at high tide, we're at high tide, so high tide plus 2.5 feet during Hurricane Sandy, it would wipe out 10% of the city of Boston and cause $55 billion worth of economic damage. And that happens around downtown waterfront, South Boston waterfront, East Boston and Charlestown, all the way up into Whitehead Circle actually floods as well. And so it's kind of crazy. Huh? Yeah, I would just call it part of the downtown, not the South Boston waterfront, but the downtown one. Yeah. But just another, you know, it's funny that it doesn't come up as much. People tend to think in today. A lot of what the forward thinking is making sure. So, do folks have any opportunities that we have here?
high school.
High school, all right. What else? What else do we
I
have?
think we could house a mix of different workers and working class people, so we could have square proximity to all the hospitals, government buildings, lots of commercial businesses, so we really get a whole mix of all the people.
Okay, all right. So diverse housing opportunities, given where we're located and the diverse opportunities within the downtown area. Okay.
I think to keep the current neighborhood, you know, charm around, not even just the North End, but like Beacon Hill, all the other places. I mean, we are unique in that way as a city, like, or else we're just like Houston, which is just this massive. It's like, as we build up, like, to keep that in mind, to like preserve what we already have here.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of that, I mean, you know, to house a growing population, we're gonna have to get more dense. We're gonna have to go taller in some areas, right? We're a landlocked, it's a land constrained city as it is land poor. You know, we're not making it new anymore, at least not yet. I don't know what the future may hold, but another back day or something like that. But you're right, we're gonna have to think, but in that, of course, I mean, that's what landmarks comes in. And there's certain, I don't think the North End, you know, for all general purposes, will be touched. Back Bay, Beacon Hill, those sort of areas to preserve the history. So, but that's even taking away more land from where we can add density. So now we have to look at where can we add it within, taking all those neighborhoods of land away, where do we add density in housing, right? I think that's where we're starting to think. Trying to identify these locations of where there's already a neighborhood fabric, where does it just need infill development and infrastructure update? But where do we have growth opportunities? What zones can we really start to reach the mayor's housing goal, that 53,000 units by the year 2030, which, by the way, could actually be more of a conservative projection, a population projection. So it might actually probably be more than the impressive 53,000. So we're gonna have to really start thinking. But so I hear high school, I hear diverse housing opportunities.
Well, I just wanted to say, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to tag onto what John was saying, preserving Boston's history, but you said it. And I just didn't want it to slide by, because I think it's very important, certainly for the North End, when we're talking about our community. And we have so much here. Let's not overlook it.
You're right, Victor.
So now, I know, and again, just trying to be respectful of time for folks. The idea being, we've seen housing, schools, and parking slash transportation as the three challenges of the North End. But some of its greatest opportunities come in a more diverse housing, adding a high school, and talking about maintaining the historic charm slash value, which I think, I don't know, the feeling inside City Hall is always, there's just certain things you're just never gonna touch. I think developers get that vibe too, they might try, but.
And I thought of it more on a greater level, like
Yeah.
in the seaport, all those buildings are huge now, and like when you're out on the harbor, like what's great about it is there's no wall like right now, really. You can see the progression of height, and I just, like, stuff like that, we don't have to lose sight of.
Right.
This may not be a big fan of developers, but is there a way to mandate, to keep the fabric of the neighborhood, to keep all kinds of economic classes here, mandate affordable housing? Say 25% of any development is allocated for affordable housing.
Yeah,
Keep
so
families here, keep people.
I'm sure you know what it is now.
Yeah.
It's at 13%.
Right, is there any way to double that?
Yeah, and so we did just double the buyout, which, from 200,000 per unit, which we made the developer buyout to now 400,000 per unit. You have to be careful because, believe it or not, even though I know developers get that rap of, they're making hand over fist, and they got the nice car, the nice watch, and it's all true. But today, it is a lot harder to see their return on investment than actual. I worked at the BRA. I've never felt bad for a developer. You know what I mean? But it is true that it is difficult to build, especially with labor cost and construction cost in this city. We have to be careful. Right now, we've got the golden goose. Everyone's investing. Boston is hot. We're growing. That's a great thing for the tax base, for the people, for the jobs, for the economy. You don't want to break you want to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, if you will. And so we've been very careful about that. Even the jump from 200 to 400,000 for the buyouts. The developers met with developers prior to make sure that would suffice and sort of work with what they need to do. But if we ever start mandating anything about, it's what percentage is a percentage that walks the line, right? I think we're still trying to figure that out. Maybe 13 is enough, maybe it's not enough. We certainly need more affordable housing, right? So you just want to be careful not to drive business out of the city, away from here as well. That's sort of the battle we have. I don't have an answer for you, but that's sort of the internal battle we have.
That's the bio money that goes back to the city. Like, for example, any project in the neighborhood that's taken on debt, how come that money can't come back to the North End? It goes to the city of Boston, which is fine. We don't benefit the entire city, but we would love to see the money, where there's a buyout here in this neighborhood, that money comes back to our neighborhood.
Right.
Because there's so many improvements that we can do, especially with a baseball field or a hockey rink or a tennis court or whatever it may be. So that sounds, it would be nice to see.
Yeah, it does go to the general fund, right? So everything that happens downtown is funding the things that are going on in the lower income neighborhoods and making all the affordable housing out there. You know what's funny? When you go out and go to a community meeting out there, what the majority of people are saying is, we got enough. We don't want any more affordable housing. We want some market rate. in Roxbury, in Mattapan. We'd like to see sort of that diversity of income that Maria was mentioning earlier too. So I think there's room in there. And I know the BRA, sometimes when they have money, they can put out, what's the right word here? It's late, but not a contest, but have people write in to try to get a certain pool of money, so it at least tries to stay in the neighborhood. But it has to be shared. We're not, again, trying to change that stigma of neighborhood by neighborhood, and really thinking of the city as a whole, sort of what the citywide plan's trying to do, because that's a way, you were even thinking regionally, think outside the city, which even I have a hard time doing. But we're talking about working with, transportation and housing issues with Cambridge, and Somerville, and Quincy, and how that might solve some of the issues here in the city, But it is difficult, because you get angry when, hey, we're taking the impact, we want to see benefit, right? I think the BRA is taking steps to sort of try and make sure it goes back into the community, but at the same time, we have to be mindful of the city as a whole. That is a good job. So folks, wrapping it up, I guess we can kind of talk about how we kind of just did talk about how we felt about what we saw with the opportunities, what we saw as the challenges. It's obviously not easy to prioritize, right? And we sort of have to keep these things in our mind as we go forward. But thank you for those who filled out the text thing today and for ways to get involved. You can please go onto our website as well, imagine.boston.gov. You can find out more information there on how to stay involved. But the key is the engagement, hearing from you all. Because even this tonight, understanding now I get to go back and it's another piece to the puzzle. And I'm not saying we can deliver on every single thing that we saw as a challenge here today, but the idea is when we start putting together the plan about where growth can occur, and what infill development needs to happen, and what amenities need to go where, we can look at this and say, we know what the North End wants, right? We know what sort of the main challenges are. We can begin to at least address 1, 2, 3, some, if not all of them. So thank you guys for taking part in this. Sir, yes?
Yeah, and could you clarify something about the program?
Yeah.
Is this a different program or the same program as the one that Corey Z has been talking about, the 2-year planning effort? Because if so, she has made it very clear that it's not a master plan that's going to be produced. Or is this a different program?
Well, Corey Zangerbond talks about it. Her original thing was urban renewal.
Yes.
And so she may reference the citywide master plan.
But she's careful to say it's not a master plan that's coming out.
Yeah,
It's going to be a study and recommendations. And
That's
it's
true.
only going to take 2 years, and it would take much longer than 2 years to make a master plan for
So
the
I
city. So I
see-
just want to have this clarified.
No, absolutely. And I think I see where the miscommunication is on her part.
Uh-huh.
So it is a citywide master plan. However, what's coming out of it is when this plan is done, it does not come with new zoning. Okay, so it's not setting the standard. It's more of a policy arena and setting the framework for development and things to occur. Now, later on, from out of this framework, a zoning change may happen, right? But this is not the arena in which the zoning, so I think that's what she's saying, where it's not a citywide zoning change. It's not a master plan that will rezone the city. And it's important to understand what this plan does not do. It's not gonna go parcel by parcel and say, you put retail here, you put a 20-story residential here, you put business here. That is not what it's intended to do. It's put it more to identify areas of the city, try and think outside of neighborhood boundaries, more to identify areas of the city that can take on growth and density and height, where we can sort of house that growing population to hopefully sort of plateau the escalating cost of housing, which of course, as you guys have even said in yours, and you're not much different from everyone else in the city at the moment, housing is the #1 concern.
And it's expected to be completed in 2 years.
Q2 of 2017, we're hoping to have the final document. Yes, so I think that's what Corey talked about.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
So guys, thank you so much. I know it's kind of a simple little drill here to do, but it helps us get a little high-level picture of where we're going, and so I really appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.